Hey, so welcome again to this episode of Reclaiming the Spirit. Um, as many of you know, my name is Mark Heilshorn. I'm a pastor, theologian, and I've been working for really the last 45 days, focusing on this theme, reclaiming the spirit. And tonight we look at the concept of harmony. The concept of harmony, um, being harmonious with one another, especially given the pandemic that we're experiencing right now, because there's plenty of reasons to get fearful, which is the underlying theme of reclaiming the spirit, which is to dissolve fear. So, harmony. Now, many of you know, for the last many nights, I've been talking about um, different theological perspectives. Certainly, one coming from the Buddhist tradition, three coming from the Abrahamic traditions, that being Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. Four being the or five being the Native American view of things, and then the sixth one having to do with what we do in the recovery rooms, because the rooms of recovery and the 12 steps all have to do with our spiritual path as well. So, just wanted to reiterate what we've been doing for the last 8 nights, and so I want to go back to Buddhism for a minute here, because Buddhism, the 8 paths of Buddhism, really kind of focus on the concept of being in harmony with one another, being in harmony with our consciousness, being in harmony with our good nature, being in harmony with morality, and caring for one another, and caring for our attitudes towards nature and each other, and our attitudes towards God. And recognizing that if we have the right view, the right intention, the right speech, the right action, the right livelihood, the right effort, the right concentration, the right consciousness, these are all their 8 pillars of belief. Life's pretty good, and we're not making a lot of mistakes, and we're caring for one another at the same time. So follow that up with the 3 Abrahamic traditions, which use the 10 Commandments as a means to justify belief. And what we're leaning up against today, and I use that word deliberately, is bearing no false idols, no false witness against the neighbor, which means we're not lying and casting blame with somebody else. So, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, we do not bear false witness against a neighbor, which means we don't lie. We don't lie. Oh boy. That's an interesting concept, isn't it? Because all we hear about right now in the culture is who's lying, who's not telling the truth, where the information is coming from, who's providing it, what's fake news, i.e., what's lying, who's lying about news, and who's promoting ill will because of casting rumors or casting false information just to distract people. I mean, it's rather disgusting to see what is happening in our culture and our politic, and God knows what it's doing to our children who are looking at all this and saying, well, why bother being truthful? Why don't I just lie about everything? So this concept of being honest and being truthful and not lying is going to have to come from people like you and I who look at the facts. And I just wonder, as a man of God, as somebody who cares about the society that I live in and the world that I live in, where is the baseline of morality if we can't live by this basic tenet, which is to not lie to one another? And I think sometimes the basis of lying is just not wanting to be called to account, not wanting to fess up, not wanting to be held accountable. And at the same time, boy, it sure makes a lot easier if we're just being truthful. What's wrong with truth? What's wrong with honesty? I mean, we deserve that, don't we? So this is a rough one, and this is one that people of all Abrahamic faiths really need to try to live by. And perhaps those of you who are watching who don't know a thing about the 10 Commandments, this may be the very most important one, because we're seeing it violated just about everywhere. And we don't even know what truth is because there's so many lies swirling around out there, or fabrications of the truth, or exaggerations of the truth. I mean, being rigorously honest is so incredibly important in our lives and needs to be. So, the Native Americans would say in their ninth step, very simply, right? Follow the rhythms of nature, rise and retire with the sun. That kind of brings it all back to a basic tenet, doesn't it? Do your work during the day, rise up with the sun, go to bed at night, and stay out of trouble. I just heard a friend of mine say today, if his teenagers were out past 11 o'clock, there was never going to be any good that came of that. So if you're not with your buds, or if you're still hanging with your buds by 11 o'clock at night, get home, because you know what? After that, things get kind of crazy. And I think it kind of makes sense. Think of all the things we probably did as young people, or perhaps as teenagers, or are still doing, that happened. Probably the worst things that ever happened to us happened after dark. Um, it's probably just the way it is, where we think nobody's looking, um, or we can hide from the truth, or in darkness, we're allowed to get away with things. I may be exaggerating here a little bit. I can only speak from my own experience, because oftentimes I was doing other things after dark, as a young teenager, and as a young man, that maybe I shouldn't have been doing. So, true confessions, right? So I'm probably not the only one out there, and I suspect, if you, would invite you to kind of scour through your past and respond to that one. So in any event, so in the 12 traditions, what we're looking at here is the ninth step, which is to make amends to people whoever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. And in the 12-step tradition, this is the opportunity to reach out and talk to those people, or reach out to those people that you've harmed in the past, to confess and to be honest with your amends, honest with your grief, honest with the pain that you have, and the sorry that you have for doing things that you wish you hadn't, especially under the influence. So, those are our tenets for this evening. And I would invite you all to, once again, to take those positions, to take what it means to be um, to be harmonious, and filter that through all of these steps and these traditions, because harmony is a way of finding balance. It's a way of finding honesty. It's a way of being contrite with ourselves and those around us. And it's a way of finding out best practices, or the best way of living. Um, and it doesn't say avoid risk, and it doesn't say not have fun. It just says be in harmony. Be in harmony with yourself, your loved ones, and the world around you. And during this coronavirus scare, in this time when we are quite frankly scared, and now maybe getting a little bored with the numbers, thinking, well, it'll never happen to me. Now we're hearing about, a second wave, and that second wave could be way worse than this. So there's a lot of fear out there still, and we're trying to diminish it as a culture. But you and I both know probably that it's something we need to be aware of. So, let's try to find some harmony in our lives. And more harmony we find, the less susceptible we will to the tension and the anxiety and the stress around the fear that usually promotes illness, and promotes reaction, and promotes a sense of ill will, and leaves us susceptible to all kinds of illness, disease, disease, and the prevalence, if you will, of lower immunity as a result, which makes us susceptible to sickness, and really a poor attitude in many ways. So think on that, and I would invite you to join me for my live stream, which is on Facebook at Reclaim the Spirit, where I'll add a meditation to this line of thinking, and we'll have a chance to do some praying too. So Happy that you're with me. Reach out to me, comment if you would. I'd love support, love some feedback. Blessings to you all, and have a great night.